Hi everyone, it's Peter Schiff. It is Monday, November 30th, 2009. Well, it's been a few days since I've posted a video blog, and a lot has happened. Late last week over the Thanksgiving holiday, I think it was on Wednesday night, we first learned of what it really amounts to a default by Dubai World, which is a state-owned entity by the Emirates of Dubai, which is part of the United Arab Emirates. And Dubai World borrowed a lot of money. I think they owe around $60 billion, and they own properties not only in Dubai but around the world. They were investing in Las Vegas, and they were building a lot of projects that really shouldn't have been funded. They were, really one of the poster boys for the boom of excess in over-investment or overbuilding during the housing boom. But I think the world's financial markets, certainly on Wednesday, Thursday, here Friday in the U.S., overreacted to what happened. I mean, people are very fearful now of a contagion, of this somehow spreading across the globe, kind of like the subprime thing ended up becoming a lot bigger, and people are fearful. And I think they're missing the boat, and they're really making what amounts to a mountain out of a financial molehill. Sure, it's $60 billion. It's a lot of money. But, in the scheme of things, it is smaller than the CIT bankruptcy that's going on right now. There have been plenty of companies that have gone bankrupt owing more money than Dubai World. And also, there are assets there. They own a lot of real property. This is not just paper. It's not like they just have a bunch of worthless subprime mortgages. They do have property. What the property is worth remains to be seen. It's probably not worth the $60 billion or so that they borrowed to build everything, but it's worth something. So the creditors are not going to get wiped out. But I do not think that this is going to cause a flight from emerging markets, that people are now going to be nervous about investing in other countries where projects are far more economically viable than what was going on in Dubai. And I think everybody, this is not coming out of left field. I mean, people have been talking about this, and they've known about this for years. I mean, property prices have already halved in Dubai. We know about the problems in places like Las Vegas. So this is nothing new. The fact that maybe they're going to default, that there's not going to be some kind of bailout for this entity by maybe Abu Dhabi, which is obviously the richest emirate of the United Arab Emirates. I think it'd be a good thing if they don't bail them out. But the fact of the matter is, it is not going to be this global contagion. The stock market has clearly overreacted over the last several days. I think it created a lot of buying opportunities, particularly in some of the Asian shares. People are talking about the impact of this for China, because people are speculating, well, maybe China is the next Dubai. After all, look at all the buildings that China is building that maybe there is no real demand for. Look at all the skyscrapers that are empty in China. Maybe China is the next Dubai, only on a bigger scale. Well, there's a huge difference between China and Dubai, other than the scale of everything. Dubai borrowed the money to build their structures. China has the money. China's paying. This is a pittance. I mean, what China is spending to build skyscrapers is tiny compared to the treasuries that they're holding on to. So they have the money. And the extent that they're doing some malinvestments, that they're building, and the question is, they are building buildings that maybe the free market wouldn't have built, maybe something different would have been done. The fact of the matter is, it's better than just sitting on cash. Because if China hadn't built a lot of these buildings, a lot of these skyscrapers, they would just have a higher pile of dollars. What good is a skyscraper full of Federal Reserve notes? I mean, that's going to be worthless. So the fact that they've managed to take some of these dollars that would have just, gone up in a pile of smoke and turned them into office buildings or cities, sure. I mean, they're going to get used at some point. They have some value. People are going to occupy these structures. The question is, at what cost? Obviously, there would have been better things for China to have done with its wealth than potentially build buildings in areas that they really don't need to be built. But the fact of the matter remains, anything is better than holding U.S. currency. It doesn't matter what they do. As long as they don't buy treasuries or keep dollars, from their perspective, whatever they gain is gravy. But it's amazing that people still can't see the difference. And also the fact that, we had this flight to the dollar. The dollar rallied again here on Thursday and Friday. But you know what? All the dollar index did is just get back to about the 75 level, which had been the support. We're right back below it again today. And I think that anybody who reflexively jumped into the dollar, thinking that they were going to make some money by buying the dollar, I think those bets are going to lose. And eventually people are going to get tired of thinking that every time there's a worry or a crisis that the answer is to buy the dollar, because it's not. Because the biggest crisis out there waiting to happen is the dollar. And when people start fleeing from the dollar instead of to the dollar, that's going to be a sure sign that the next phase of the crisis is much closer at hand. You know, and speaking about the next phase of the crisis, Ben Bernanke penned an op-ed that appeared over the weekend in the Washington Post. And in this op-ed, Ben Bernanke is writing against Ron Paul's bill to audit the Fed. And once again, Ben Bernanke is claiming that this bill will threaten the Fed's independence. That if we pass this bill, that monetary policy might be made for political reasons. Well, that's what's already happening. That's why the country's in so much trouble. Because Alan Greenspan and Ben Bernanke, every decision they made was political. None of it was for the economic health of this country. And you know, what's really incites me about reading that op-ed is that the reason that he's saying, look, we don't want to audit the Fed, or he's also against the Senate bill from Chris Dodd to try to take some of the regulatory authority away from the Fed, invest it in another entity. The reason he's saying we don't want to do that is because the Fed is so great. He's saying that the Fed is what arrested the financial crisis. So don't bite the hand that feeds you. As if, they've done us such a big favor. Of course, what Ben Bernanke doesn't point out is that the Fed caused the financial crisis. And what it's done to arrest it hasn't arrested it at all. It simply postponed the pain and exacerbated it. I mean, here you got, it's like Ben Bernanke, he's like the bartender, or the Fed is the bartender, and it's, knowingly liquoring up an inebriated patron. And then when the guy is completely stinking drunk, walking him out to the parking lot, handing him the car keys, seating him down, belting him in, closing the door, and just waving goodbye as the car swerves out of the parking lot down the street. And then, when there's an accident, the Fed says, oh, I guess we didn't do all that we could have done to restrain his reckless driving. I mean, for Bernanke to write that the Fed could have done more, and the way he wrote it, he said the Fed, along with other regulatory agencies around the world, could have done more to restrain the excesses, as if the Fed is just some other, agency. It's not. And it was the principal reason. It was the enabler. It was the very source of all the reckless activity that created the financial crisis. So to say that we have to not audit the Fed to make sure that we don't have a Fed that does exactly what they've already done, I mean, this is the most disingenuous, hypocritical type of argument. Now, I already have written a reply to this op-ed, and I'm going to send it in to the Washington Post a little bit later today. Hopefully they run it. I mean, they have run an op-ed by me in the past, and since I was an economic advisor to Ron Paul's campaign, since I'm a Senate candidate running against Chris Dodd, and since I basically got everything right that Ben Bernanke got wrong, and have been a very staunch critic of the Fed and supporter of the bill to audit the Fed, specifically because I want the Fed to be independent. And I think if they are audited, they're more likely to be independent than the way they are right now. Hopefully, the Washington Post will run my reply to this article. Anyway, that's it for today. I'll be back again shortly. Oh, later on today, I am recording a episode of Freedom Watch with Judge Napolitano on Fox. I forget when they broadcast it. They're taping it today around 1 o'clock, whether it's later today or not. But if you don't already watch this, make sure to go to foxnews.com. It's a daily show with Judge Napolitano. Frequent guests are, Ron Paul, Lou Rockwell. It's a very freedom, inspired half hour on foxnews.com. And hopefully, if enough people watch this show, maybe one day the guys at Fox will green light this thing to be an actual show on Fox News TV. Anyway, that's it for today. Take care, everybody.